when you were a young lad, I put it
Mhm.
this way, how did you create that culture of reading? Or,
It,
yeah.
mhm. It came from my teachers as well. The Peace Corps. That's why I will not stop celebrating the Peace Corps. Besides my father, who ensured that every now and then we read. If you went to a Peace Corps house, yeah, even if they were generous enough to give you a plate of food, after that there was a magazine, there was a reader's. Those days you had, I don't know, National Geographic.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
National Geographic magazines were Time magazine. So they made it. They made it. They told you definitely that without reading, your education was nothing, because you always had to find time to replenish. The replenishing aspect of reading uh, is very much important, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. So it's more of, from an early stage, if you have the opportunity, if you have the training, then of course you are on the safe side. If you get too old before you want to cultivate the culture of reading, then it will become a little more tasking for you.
Okay, so here's the essay you asked me,
Yeah,
20 of the best ways to find time to read.
yes, two things.
So yeah, so I mean, before you can even find a time to read, you must be able to read. I mean,
Yes.
simple as that. But the first one is read things you enjoy.
Yeah, read things you enjoy. In
But
other words, I mean, it's clear everyone has or should have themes of interest. Everyone should have themes of interest, whether it's sports, whether it's sex, whether it's religion. You know, you have to find what you like most. If you went into a chocolate uh, if you went into a chocolate store, or you went to a sports store, if you are a soccer player, obviously you will run for as many soccer balls as you would like. If you went into a candy store, you want to get the best of candies, like ice cream as well. So you've got to ask yourself the question: what do I like to talk about, or what do I like to hear about? So, and the rationale is that the more you find that we should like to talk about, the more it will be better for you to go even deeper and all that.
I'm sorry, my cat talks to me. She's saying hello. So the first thing is read things you enjoy. But
Mhm.
you can also so you cultivate the habits by reading things you enjoy.
Yeah,
But
that's the
then
starting point. That's the starting point.
that's the
That's what I.
starting point.
Yes.
Okay, Prof. So tell me, and I asked you this before, and you said that the question was not a difficult one, but that you had so many answers. But okay, if I were to ask you, um, can you give me three books that I should read? Could you narrow them down to three and tell me what they would be?
Well, I think, again, in my case, I have a variety. I have a variety of interests and what have you. Right now, I'm completing. Uh, I've completed the history of the development of the knowledge about uh, life after life,
Mm.
and the the major title is Heaven and Hell, and is by Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman is one of my go-to when it comes to all things religious, all things spiritual. He understands his subject, and he's known all over the world for. And I'm also on a, a transition to Armageddon, uh, and he talks about they much of what he talks about is how people have corrupted, the Bible, how people have corrupted spiritual things to a point that you've got to be cautious in how you go about them. The which is Armageddon, is about John's revelation, which is the last book in the Holy Bible, and he talks about how people have read the book literally instead of understanding that much of it has been symbolic, much of it has been metaphorical, and you've got to understand the times that the children of Israel were in in the diaspora, in Babylon, and what have you. So you've got to be careful about how you go about reading these things in scriptures and all that. Uh, the other book, again, every now and then I talk about that book, which has to do with writing. I will urge everyone to pick up the book called On Writing Well,
Yeah.
by William Zenzer. In fact, it's almost always on my desk. The beauty with which this guy writes and talks about language is something that is awe-inspiring.
Prof, what I see that most of the books that you're talking about on this show is nonfiction.
Yeah.
So is it that you gear towards nonfiction more than fiction, or why is
No,
it that? Uh-huh.
and I think, as I said again, my interest spreads out. Uh, one of the first books in fiction that I read that attracted me, I must have been in, I think, second year college. Uh, the Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, the power he used to really make you see what he was talking about, what he was describing, and what have you. It was so, of course, some of it was scatological, a little bit of dirty type of language and what have you, but it was for a purpose. The Beautiful Ones Are, when the man who is the key character, when he talks about one day how the man, normally he went to work very early, about 4 o'clock. In Ghana, by 5 o'clock, the sun is up because they live around the equator. So in Ghana, by 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, the sun is already up. But this guy, who might have gone to work very early, about 3 o'clock, and was going to 4 o'clock, he was so tired, he fell asleep, and saliva was oozing out of his mouth until everyone had left the bus. But because he was deep asleep, he almost forgot where he was going until the conductors had to just tell driver had to tell my man, get away from there and go about the business. But from that point on, what he described about the people, I'm talking about Ayekwe Ama, what he described about people making ends meet and what have you, the images were so powerful that they got me hooked. So talking about fiction, yes, there are so many other fictional works I've read. But again, as you were saying, no, it's not only nonfiction. I'm also interested in fiction.
I find myself gearing more towards the reflective
Mm,
people who have lived and they've lived well,
mm,
and then reading their stories, Sidney
mm,
Poitier's
mm. Yeah.
memoirs, Harry Belafonte,
Yeah.
um, Kennedy's, uh, even what is it? Al Gore book. You know, so assault on reason.
But so biographies are also good, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Assault on reason is not a biography, but it's really books that make you think. I think
Yeah, well,
that's what I'm gearing towards. Not
well,
so much
mhm.
nonfiction like you, but not so much fiction,
Mhm.
but like you, nonfiction that people who have lived and people who have something to say.
In
You know,
fact, there was a time in the history of America that uh, life stories became very much important. That was how they banned Franklin's and all those Lee Iacocca and all those people began to write their. So of course, Lee Iacocca was just in modern times as opposed to Ben Franklin, but life stories were encouraged. Life stories were encouraged because there is a tendency for a later generation to look at what people in the past uh, were enjoying and what have you, so that the later generation doesn't see the kind of work, the kind of work that's gone into preparing those people. So achievements do not fly by night. Achievements do not fly by night. Achievements are worked at over time before people get to a kind of uh, draw the benefits and dividends and all that kind of a thing. So for a long time, life stories were encouraged. And life stories are reflective stories. You are not just telling the reader that you move from point A to point B, but as you move from point A to point B, the struggles, the challenges you had, and how you were able to maneuver, how you others help you maneuver through the challenges become very much important. So yes, life stories are important, and they are more reflective type of thing. Talking about that, I think I began when I said something about Malcolm X. If you read the story of the life story of Malcolm X, all to the point where he became a national figure, you will be impressed by what he did and what others did to bring him to the peak that he was at. So really, life stories are. But I've always told people that, in fact, in Liberia, there are few life stories told as opposed to frivolous things that people talk about. I remember when I was writing a little book I call April 14. At the beginning of April 14, I engaged with Bacchus Matthews. And I said to him, Bacchus, if you leave this world without writing your perspective on things that went into April 14, you will not have done life, you will not have done Liberia justice. And then he laughed. He said, well, in someone's life story, there are so many things that go on. And sometimes people you want to talk about what have you, they may not want to hear about. I said, well, then you use what? You use aliases and what have you. But you must tell the core of the story, and then we laugh about it. 20 years later, sadly, he died.
okay, but even people who are alive and who should be writing their memoirs or
Mm.
their
Yeah,
autobiography, sometimes they don't.
yeah,
We interviewed Tipote, and
yeah.
Tipote's book
Mhm.
was a bit of reflection as
Yeah.
well, but it was
Yeah,
mostly about poetry and other
yeah.
things of
Hmm.
his life.
Hmm.
Okay, so you say read things you enjoy,
Yeah.
and we talk about that. So I asked you the question you didn't answer,
Which
that
one?
if we were to name, let's say, two books,
Oh, well, I just gave you that now. How are you talking
the
about?
autobiography of Malcolm X,
Hmm.
is
I
the
talk
other
about,
one on writing well?
yes, and I talk
Okay,
about if you four books because I talk about heaven and hell, a
oh,
story
okay,
of life year after. In other words, the thoughts and views that went into what we have today as heaven and hell. And then I talk about Armageddon.
Okay.
Armageddon is the history of what is it, of John's revelation that is found in the last book of the Bible. And then
Okay.
I talk about what else? I talk about the beautiful ones are not yet born by Ayekwe Ama. So there are several of them I've talked about.
Okay. So now we come to read before bed. Now the essay that you gave me, it has a lot of suggestions. It says read before bed, read first thing in the morning, and then read while you eat.
Yeah.
Which one do you do?
The thing about it, he said you spread. In other words, there must be books around. Every aspect. It's almost like create a point of reflection, create a mirror, so that when you turn, everywhere you turn, you see yourself in the mirror. What have you? That's what it is. So this guy is saying, uh, you need just 15 minutes, and the 15 minutes must be used intensively, and what, and reflectively.
So do you read while you eat?
It depends. If I were reading a story before food came around, I w- and the thing about eating is that people rush through eating. That's what it is. That people rush through eating. Well, eating should not be something to rush through. You have to give yourself time to take in the food, take small bits of it, and as you digest the food and probably take a drink and what have you, you must be reflecting. Again, the word reflection is very much important. So
So
whether I'm eating, whether I'm reclining a bit, whether I'm even listening to music, sometimes on low, the music will be on low, and then I do reading. Short of the long is that I've made reading a part of me that sometimes, it becomes an obsession.
it says here, spend less time on social media.
I guess it's talking about the young people, right? Or even some of the older people. Yes, people love social media so much until nothing seems to get between them and the social media.
I don't think, and you're right. And it's not just Liberia. It's like everybody, they
Yeah.
either wait for the movie
Hmm.
or, but right? Reading builds up your vocabulary.
Hmm.
It does. It
It
teaches,
broadens your imagination.
yes,
Yes.
yes,
It
it
helps
teaches
with
you the word
critical
to
thinking.
use.
Yes.
It teaches you the right word to use.
Yes.
It gives you a whole um repository.
It's
Yeah.
inspirational. Reading is inspirational. Sometimes even one word or one phrase can send your mind way off, sometimes even into your own life. You see, it's remarkable what reading can do for all of us.
But you see, Prof, we know what reading does. We know that the young people, or not even young people, people in general,
Yeah, yeah, people in general,
yeah,
yes.
people in general, not just because we have some very avid young readers.
Mhm.
So people in general, you know, would not know. And I'm not saying that to put anyone down, but I mean, there are other things that they would prefer doing. There are other things that they find pleasure in. So, and we can say all we want about, oh, it will build your vocabulary, it will take you to places you've never
Broaden
traveled.
your thinking, yeah.
Yeah, but until they find that one book that shows them that they're not alone, that these experiences that they are having, these emotions are shared by people in other parts of the world.
Mhm.
Like when we were young growing up, Mills and Bones, Harlequin romance books, you fall in love, and oh, you think you are the only person who fallen in love. But then you start to read and you're like, oh, so these these people fall in love. Or so then you become this
It
obsessed reader
it
because
broadens it broadens the sense of communality.
yeah, you are empathizing with this person because you're in that situation as well. So if if we're let's say we're talking to somebody, and we want to say to them, forget about it builds your vocabulary, forget about it makes you more empathetic, forget about the fact that you can live through the author sometimes with the experiences. Someone who doesn't care about all that, how would we be able, let's say reading was a product and we are salespeople and we have to sell reading, how are we going to do that?
Oh, but the thing about it is, we are talking about life. We are talking about those who think like us, those who behave like us. The whole affirmation, the whole affirmation of life, the whole affirmation of togetherness, the whole affirmation of there is no distance when it comes to the celebration of life. There's no distance, or there ought not to be a distance between you and me. That whole idea of togetherness should be powerful. That whole idea, I, people, I didn't know that people can laugh at this thing. I thought it was I alone who like looking at this particular thing. So this whole idea, uh, whether we express it clearly or not, this whole idea of togetherness, that people are the same everywhere, is very much important. Until uh, social media came around, until television came around, it was almost contestable that people are the same everywhere. People cry, people laugh, people dance, people get angry, people get sad, and what have you. Whether you are a rich man or what, or a poor man, those characteristics of humanity that we are capable of recognizing as we move from one region of the world to the other should be able to be the igniting point, should be the igniting point of why people should read. Because when you read, you are gathering knowledge. See what it is. In fact, in biblical times, there are people who, uh, uh, we thought did not exist, but through reading, we've got to know about that. There are people who had miseries and what have you, and you thought you alone have miseries, but through reading you were able to get those things. So it is a plethora. It is a panoply of activities and ideas and feelings that you share when you read.
So besides making time and things like that, they say read one more than one book at a time,
Mm.
set reminder,
Mhm.
practice speed reading. I'm not
Mhm.
a fan of speed reading, although I do speed reading a lot on this show when I have to, but I'm
Mhm.
not a fan of speed reading. I would
Some
read, I mean, I can read a book in a day,
even
but
even
I usually just um I would read maybe a chapter,
Mhm.
digest it, and then come back instead of doing speed reading.
Yeah.
What do you
Well,
suggest?
the thing about, again, every activity is driven by certain necessities. Every activity is driven by certain necessities. Speed reading is obviously not a regular thing to do, but it is a skill to have. Speed reading is not a regular thing to do, but it is what? It is a skill to have, so that when the moment comes, you are ready for it. And there's one you said about read a couple of books at a time, which is a good thing. I like to read at least two books at a time. It may go to three if I have the time. So you don't read, you don't go in depth all the time. But when it comes to a moment, you can share, especially when those books have almost similar themes and what have you. You can do well in reading more than one book.
Okay, let's look.
Again, go ahead.
No, 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 no. Just finish your thought, and then we can continue.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that it depends on what you want. It depends on what you want. A skill can become a habit if you practice it over an extended period of time. If you are getting into it the first time around, it's sometimes frustrating, it's tasking and what have you. But if you've worked at it for some time, you should become a master. And that's what they say. What practice makes perfect.
Okay, so like if we look at I went further to look at some of the famous people who are readers like Oprah Winfrey.
Mm,
And I'm quoting her. She says, "Books allowed me to see a world beyond the front porch
yeah,
of my grandmother's shotgun's house.
yeah,
Books gave me the power to see possibilities
hmm,
beyond what was allowed at the
hmm,
time."
yeah,
And then Facebook CEO Zuckerberg said he reads one book every other week
hmm,
with an emphasis on learning about different cultures,
okay,
beliefs, histories, and technologies.
hmm,
Books allow you, I'm quoting him, books allow you to fully explore a topic and
hmm,
immerse yourself in a deeper way
yeah,
than most media today.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to shifting more of my media diet
Hmm.
towards reading books.
I'm
Mm.
sure even Bill Gates will tell you that as well. Bill Gates.
Yes, he reads 50 books a year
Yeah.
or roughly one book a week.
Okay.
Yeah. And the same goes with Warren Buffett, who reads 5 to 6 hours a day, but he
Okay.
reads different newspaper.
Yeah.
He said
Yeah.
that's how knowledge works.
Uh-huh.
It builds up like compound interest. All
Yeah.
of you can do it. Yeah. So yeah.
It's like I said earlier, reading is you can compare that to eating. We eat to live. We read to strengthen our memories. We read to increase the power of reasoning and all those things there. So reading is powerful. If you are someone who wants to become strong in athletics, what do you do all the time? You go to the gym. You make it a habit, not a hobby, but a habit. The same thing with eating. To live well and what have you, you've got to eat nutritious food and what have you. The same thing. To have a memory, you have to have strong brain cells and what have you. You must be able to read. Compare somebody who left college and never opened a book to someone who even finished high school but kept at reading. Compare those two. You will find out that even with the guy's formal high school education, and then adding reading there, that person will be far ahead. So reading there is nothing that should be compromising as far as reading is concerned. Reading culture must become a strong aspect of one's life.
And of course, the founder of Nike,
Yeah.
he said that he had a library behind his executive office.
Hmm.
It was so sacred that anyone who entered
Hmm.
had to remove their shoes, right? And when he was asked if he preserved the library after stepping down as CEO, he responded by saying, "Of course, the library still exists because I'm always learning."
Uh-huh.
So that's good.
Yeah.
But coming back to making time to read, Prof, I mean, yes, we I know we're talking about, oh, we make time and things, but sometimes it's very difficult. Like today, everybody's tired, and then to pick up a book. So I would say that why it's true that you have to make time to read. The book must also be something that grabs your attention.
Yeah, well, that's what it is.
Like we say, it's a product. Reading is a product that's selling itself.
Mhm.
You have to be able to say, oh, but I want to keep reading this book. Like when you're watching a movie, after the first 5 minutes, if somebody didn't say to you, oh, just keep watching this movie because it's really a good movie. If I'm watching a movie and within the first 10 minutes it hasn't grasped my attention, I'm gone. It's the
Okay.
same thing with a book.
Yeah.
If somebody says, keep reading, just keep reading it. And I'd be like, okay. But then as I read, nobody would have to say that to me anymore because I would want to read. So it's easy to say to someone, oh, make time to read, you
The,
know, but
the,
but
the
you have
reality the reality is that excuses excuses are the drivers of non-interest.
no, Prof, I
Excuses,
don't agree with you.
yeah, well, that's you. I'm saying excuses are the non-drivers of what the excuses are the non-drivers of interest. If you take interest in, if you cultivate the interest, if you take interest in the particular thing, no amount of excuses, no number of excuses will keep you from going on. So the first thing you have to do is to cultivate the interest in the particular thing, so that, yes, just as in life you have rough spots and you have to go over the rough spots to be able to get wherever you want to get, that is the same thing about, for instance, reading. If anybody who is a mature reader will not be bothered by the one or two lapses that get into the way, so that maybe one part of the thing is a little interesting, the other part is not interesting. You move from the point of interest and you try as much as possible to build a bridge so that you go over that part which is not what of interest to you. So it has to do with maturity as well.
Prof, people can get tired,
Yeah, I
you know.
know. That's what people do. They get tired. People get tired. What have you? That's why the guy says just what 15 minutes. You can even reduce it to what 10 minutes. But to say you to easily give way into being tired, that's problematic. At least that's what I see. Again, you are at liberty to choose your perspective from that.
I don't no, I think that you have to make time to read. Excuse me, I'm not arguing with you on that. What I'm
Mm,
saying is that
mm,
when someone is busy,
mm,
let's say you come from work, you're tired, you have
mm,
to take care of the kids and everything
mm,
like that,
mm,
you know, then you start to think, I have this pocket of time.
mm,
I need to do things with this
mm,
pocket of time.
mm,
Do I really want to sit down and be reading, especially when I can find books on tape,
mm.
you know,
Yeah,
ebooks.
okay. You find books on tape, you listen to them. That's the same thing. Just make sure you have a number of productive alternatives. That's what I'm
Is it
saying.
though?
Try as much as
Is it
possible to
though?
find productive alternatives. Whether
I
it's
mean,
listening to it or reading, whatever it is, just make sure you have time to absorb information. I mean, we talk about 15 minutes. You may even go 5 minutes. You may even go 10 minutes. But the idea is you must continue in the rhythm of what? Loving to read. Is it
is it
so?
though? Let's look at this. Is it though? Because when I put an ebook on,
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening, but sometimes my mind wanders.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I'm reading the physical book, highlighting the book, creasing the pages,
Mm-hmm.
smelling the
Yes.
book, I find that my mind does not wander. I
Okay.
am in the book, as it says.
Active reading. Yes.
Yeah, so with the ebook, why it's true that they're reading it and you're listening, but the way the word is placed, the way it is spelled, things like that, it goes by you because you are not looking. It's like when I put the TV on, it's for background noise. It's not to be it's like, okay, I'm home, I'm doing something, so the background noise, like my cat giving me background noise right now, you know so
Yeah.
I really don't see the value. I mean, I was given a Kindle and I hardly ever use the Kindle because I prefer reading, the physical reading of the book,
Mm.
you know.
Well, again, you just slip in another aspect of it. The thing about it is that, look, if you are passionate about reading, you you start with a testing ground to make sure you find that aspect that you are comfortable with. Finding that aspect that you are comfortable with is very much important. In some of my classes, a student would say, I love, I love, I love, I love watching movies, than reading a book. And I'm saying to this person, when you are a student, there is a lot more that is required of you. And part of what is required of you is to not only enjoy or absorb the content, but also make sure to absorb how something is written. You want to look at the words, like you were saying, the spelling of words and what have you. See how the words are linked. See how sentences are made. See how paragraphs are made. So, as a student, there's a lot on your shoulders, and you should not what? You should not shrink from that. You must be able to apply that. But the key point I'm making here is that as you are going into getting accustomed to the activity, which is called reading, you have to find what you call it that sweet spot. You have to find that sweet spot that will make you enjoy what you are doing. So even we talked about 15 minutes, if 5 or 10 minutes should be okay, fine. At least over time, you are going to get strong in that rhythm and be able to do things a little better and longer. So it depends. If you are tired, yes, of course. If you are tired, some in Liberian English they say tired not be lazy. I don't know whether you've heard that one. Tired not be lazy. Okay, so if you are dead tired, obviously the brain might not be functioning well. So you want to take 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes or even 30 minutes of your time and rest. A, a, a re-energized brain is better than a very uh, tired brain and what have you. So all these things, you know yourself better. That's what I'm saying. You know yourself better, and the angle from which you can do a very good job. Try as much as possible throughout life to find such angles or such angles to be able to do a good job. So to simply put excuses up front, that might not be the good thing to do. Suppose I'm tired today. Suppose I'm tired tomorrow. Suppose I'm tired. You know, everyone every now and then is tired, but you just have to find ways to be able to conquer this slew of excuses.
And of course it comes with it comes over time. I know
Oh
that
yes,
the
yes.
kindergarten here where I live, they have something called drop everything and read.
Uh-huh.
So they have an hour, and then you, I mean, not kindergarten, sorry, first grade, and then as soon as you start to whatever, is it the bell would ring and it would say drop everything and read,
Uh-huh.
and you see kids running for their books to start
Yeah,
reading. So
yeah,
because most of the time, people think, oh, reading because of homework,
yeah.
but it's not that. You can read outside of the classroom,
Yeah.
which is what they're trying to get the students to do. Yeah.
One of the things in eighth grade, seventh grade, ninth grade, again, my literature and reading teachers, uh, they 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 will have a stack of cards, a stack of cards. Actually, a two-panel card. Uh, the front panel uh, will take up a story, and after that there will be questions of for comprehension, questions related to the language and all that kind of a thing, and they were graded. uh, you went from one card to the other. The number of cards you will complete in a semester uh, led you to receiving an award. So all those things were done. uh, the many stories you read and the comments that the teacher made and what have you, those things were also inspirational. What did you get as award? You sometimes got a few writing pens, you got a few copybooks, and that was a treasure. That award was a treasure. So all those things, again, I agree much of what you said concerning, well, suppose you are tired or suppose you are reading and your mind begins to wander. If your mind is wandering again, you and only you have control of what you are doing. You have to, at some point in time, train your mind in such a way that not too many things will serve as distractions. That is why, in a reading room setting, you are there, and if you are a lover of music, well, you play music on low, or if you cannot accept or you cannot contain uh, uh, a control over your mind, you've got to just divert yourself of things you are supposed to do in that one set of time, which is 15 or 20 minutes. You should be able to focus and only focus on what you're reading.
So what do you think about, let's say let's say you're doing literature, like
Mm,
you're teaching literature at the University of Liberia.
mm,
Again, I come back to your syllabus.
mm.
What were some of the books that you recommended in your syllabus that you feel people should read, or articles or things like that?
No, it depended on for instance, in African poetry and drama. Okay, and if you went to African novel, and if you went to English literature, that sort of a thing. And as those came about, you will have uh, already the English department would have listed in a meeting, agreed on, or in a workshop, agreed upon the list of books a student ought to have read, a student who registered for that course would have read before we move on to other things. In the case of African novel, you read Achebe, you read Ayekwe Ama, you read Peter Abrahams, uh, uh, Zuma, for instance, Cry the Beloved Country, and all
Nugugi.
Ngugi wa Thiong'o, yes, all those, Weep Not Child, The River Between, uh, Grain of Wheat, and all those things there.
I think that we're all preaching to the choir.
Mm,
Even if one or two people who are listening
mm,
um would say that, of course we do know that reading is priceless. People
mm,
should know how to read. i think
yeah,
i think for me is to be able to foster reading, especially in young people,
yeah,
because there are so many things, as we say, there are so many things that are competing with it now. You
yeah,
don't have the time,
mm,
you rather watch the movie, you can listen to it on tape,
mm,
your friend can tell you about it.
mm,
People just don't have the time, and this is
mm,
not a Liberian problem, it's a
mm,
worldwide problem.
yeah,
That I think there was an article about the resurgence of bookstores.
mm,
But bookstores are resurging, not because they are just bookstores.
mm,
Like before, you go in, you find a book. Sometimes you're hiding to read the book,
mm,
but it's resurging because now they're offering more than books. It becomes
mm,
a resource
yeah,
place where you can use the internet, you can do
mm,
other things. So it's not just books that's pulling you to that place. It's
mm,
also um, other resources available to you.
mm.
So
Uh, all
I
I'm
mean,
saying is that do not allow complaining to become a pathology. If complaining becomes a pathology, then every chance you have, you want to complain. As I said earlier, it is interest that can conquer. It is interest that can conquer excuses. If I bring it to let me bring it to a woman thing. A woman who is not interested in you will find 240 excuses why she can't go to dinner with you, why she can't have a drink with you. But a woman who is interested in you is like what? Scratching a match, a stick of match on a box. All of a sudden, even though women are there is a DNA for women to always play hard to catch and what have you, it is possible that a woman who is interested in you will not allow you to talk until you go dry, your mouth goes dry and what have you. But a woman who is not interested in you, oh my God, you will even faint and she will just quietly laugh at you and say, I got him. That's what it is. So that's the same thing. That image must be brought to reading. That image must be brought to other things. If you have interest, you will try as much as possible, my dear, to create it.
I don't think that analogy works.
Oh,
We're
it
gonna
works. Oh, it works. I don't care what you do. It works. That analogy about what? About a woman not taking your bait if you get that is a good analogy, my dear. Of course, for the sake of creating argument, we can talk about it. But a woman who is interested in you does not need you to talk a whole lot. A woman who is interested in you is just different. But a woman who is not interested in you, oh my God, you will think, what does she care?
Okay, Nangbe says that a growing passion within reading makes one grow, and
Mm-hmm.
and and I know we all agree with him
Yeah,
that reading does make one grow, and it is not that I am I am saying that it's not right. I'm just saying that
mhm.
sometimes, excuse me, sometimes you have to sell reading to the people who are
I
not
agree.
interested in it. Yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
Because
So that
actually, what may seem difficult is hard to easily absorb. Otherwise, and you just think about it within the context of doing good things and doing bad things. People tend to easily run to do bad things than to do good things. Doing good things requires a lot of thinking, and therefore people say, "But with bad things, they can just run with it," and that's what it is. The same thing about reading. Reading, knowing people knowing very well what it can do for other people. People will say it's hard. That thing, writing is hard. Reading is hard, but you have to coax them. Coaching is very much important. You cannot so easily put everyone down who cannot read, but you have to tell the people to try it and see how good eventually it's going to be. Because it has its own psychological benefits as well. To go somewhere and people look at you and say, that guy has a brain, that is very much important. Or people to rally around you because you have so many good things to tell them, that is very much important. And therefore, the coaxing will eventually bring that reality out.
okay. So and with that, we're coming closer and closer to the end of our discussion. But I think that and we always encourage the audience to get involved. I think that let this be a challenge that you read a book this week, and then maybe next Friday you can tell us the book that you read this week, and then and how you feel about the book.
Or even for the starter, uh, we shouldn't press them to read a book a week. For the starter, you say read a book in 2 weeks. Read a book in 2 weeks, and let's talk about that.
Yeah, and like we always say on this show, if you read a book and you can let us know the book and we can read it also.
Yeah.
We can then invite you on and we can discuss the book.
Mhm.
It's not it meant to be a one-sided or two-sided conversation with Prof and myself.
Yes.
It is to include all of you because we keep saying that we're all on this journey. So if there is a book you would like to discuss, let us know the book. Tell us the book and we'll read the book and then we'll sit down and we'll discuss the book. Next week we're going to choose most probably an African novel to discuss, Prof and I, and we will let you know by Monday or Tuesday. We'll put it on Focus on Liberia's page, and you can read the book and join us. If we're discussing a character and we feel that the character is doing this, and you can feel free to write and say, Lord, let me come on. I don't agree with you. Let this be an interactive, participatory discussion. Yeah, Prof,
Yeah.
what say you?
Yeah, it's again, every time we talk about these things, we talk about the power of critical thinking. We talk about the power of identity. We talk about the power of determination. All these things are very much important. No one said that any of these things we talk about, including reading and what have you, making it a habit, no one said that it is an easy thing. But if we get into that rhythm, it benefits us a whole lot. It benefits us a whole lot. So look at the activity and look at the dividends that you can derive. And in that process, see how good it is for you to enter that rhythm.
Okay, so that's your challenge for this week.
Yeah.
If you read a book or within 2 weeks, let us know and you can come on and discuss it with us.
Yes.
So we want to thank you for those of you who've joined us tonight. We want to say thank you to you. We want to say that we're glad that you're on this journey with us.
Yes.
And Prof and I will be here 6 o'clock every day. I mean every Friday. So
Okay.
even if you don't get the notice or the ad, just check in on Focus on Liberia at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we're on a little late, so maybe 6:05.
Yeah.
Check in and make sure that we're here, then join the conversation. So we want to tell you thank you. Prof.
Huh?
Oh, were you saying something?
No. I was just, concurring with what you're saying.
Yeah, so we want to say thank you to all of you. We want to say, as we always say, no country is first of all, donate to Focus on Liberia. I think we've been remiss in not saying that all the time. But
Yes.
donate to Focus on Liberia because it's because of you the
Yeah.
show. I mean, all of the shows on Focus on Liberia continues.
Yeah.
So please donate to Focus on Liberia,
Yeah.
and want to say thank you to you for joining us today.
Yeah.
You made time to come to see us. So
Time,
yes,
yes.
make time to come on the show with us to discuss. And again, we want to say have a safe weekend.
Yes.
Lift Liberia up, as we always say. Keep praying for our country.
Yes.
And we'll see you next week.
Mhm.
Share the show. Tell your friends. 6 o'clock
Yeah.
every Friday,
Yeah.
Eastern time on Focus on Liberia. We'll be here.
Yeah.
So next week we'll be here again, and maybe we'll do a match. We'll donate some money, and then you guys can match it.
Yes.
But other
No
than that,
problem.
yeah, stay well, and don't
Yeah.
forget we're all Liberians,
Yeah.
and as Liberians, we will continue to lift our country up,
Yeah.
no matter how heavy it is at times.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you and good night. Yeah.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Prof.
Okay. Bye.
Okay.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.